Be blessed by the divine. Good evening. On behalf of Sky Online, I extend my warm welcome on behalf of WCSC to Professor Sakthi Saravanan. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation today to give us this lecture today on a beautiful evening today.
Thank you, ma'am.
A small introduction about sir. Professor Sakthi Saravanan is the Chief Regional Manager in an IT solution company, and he is the son of Senior Professor Ulaganathan Ayya. He is blessed to have taken initiation at the age of 13 from our Guru Vethathiri Maharishi himself. And 36 years he is in Sky Yoga, serving Vethathiri and spreading Vethathiri. So we are really honored to have you, sir, today. And he has been conducting Sky Yoga classes in government sectors, PSU, corporates, and yoga day sessions for corporate companies, colleges, and schools. And he has his own Sky Yoga Center in Chennai, in Krompet, for last 22 years. We are truly blessed and honored to have you today, and we are eagerly waiting for your lecture today, Ayya. Thank you so much. Valka Valamudan.
Valka Valamudan. Thank you, ma'am, for your warm welcome and the introduction. My screen is visible?
Yes, Ayya.
Thank you. Valka Vayyaham, Valka Valamudan. Be blessed by the divine. Let me start my session with a small invocation song so that all of us will get unified in the same mental frequency. Though it is in Tamil, but still I'll try to elaborate during my discourse when it goes on. தீய வினை பதிவுகளை திருத்தி போக்கி தெளிந்த அறிவின் விழிப்பில் நிலைத்து என்றும் தூயவினை தேர்ந்தாற்றி துன்பம் நீக்கும் தொழில்களையே கடமையென தேர்ந்து செய்து மாயம் என்னும் மறைபொருளாம் அறிவறிந்து மண்ணுலகில் உயிர்கட்கு துன்பம் நீங்க நேயமுடன் தொண்டாற்றி இன்பம் தொய்க்கும் நிறைவாழ்வாம் நெறியதுவே யோகமாகும். நேயமுடன் தொண்டாற்றி இன்பம் தொய்க்கும் நிறைவாழ்வாம் நெறியதுவே யோகமாகும். Be blessed by the divine. Guruve Thunai. Dear truth seekers, good evening to one and all of you. It is my pleasure to be part of this particular spiritual thinking and jointly exploring under the title of Karma Yoga. And of course, whatever they've been the experience, I've been groomed by the senior professors all along. I'll be sharing with you under this beautiful title, Karma Yoga. Guruve Thunai. So the Karma Yoga, basically, Swami in nutshell used to say in Tamil, கடவுளை உணர்ந்தோர் கடமையில் வாழ்வார், கடவுளை அறிந்தோர் கடமையில் வாழ்வார். So in nutshell, it talks about those who obtain the realization of God, those who has attained the revelation called the enlightenment soul. They normally, what is the significance if you look at really this realization of God or attainment of the perfection? It's simply they lead their life with the duty conscious, and they found that is a way of life called Karma Yoga. But then the other side, those people has no spiritual thinking, rather they have the attitude of purely with the duty conscious by nature. Sooner or later, they will also realize, think, and also the revelation of God. They are very closer to God, like our scientific community. They normally have that sort of a deep thinking and the duty conscious bound. They normally very close to the God. Swami used to say they are like our petty gods. So they are very closer to the God. So these are all the two core lines, the silver lines. Swami used to say, Kadavulai Unardor, Kadamayil Valvar. So there is nothing to obtain after the realization of truth, after attaining the perfection of consciousness. It is only the way of life to be fully with the duty conscious, what for we have come to this world, and that is the way of life, Karma Yoga. So the philosophy of life, Swami used to say, it is basically in three essential components: self, nature, and society. Every one of us life, basically it's all getting concluded within these three essential points. Self, it basically the physical body and the mind. And then the society, like us, the so many the entire population and the other living being contains the whole society. And of course, both the factors, self and society, above both there is a nature. But if you look at these three components, only which one we will be able to manage, which one we will be able to control. Society, obviously, it has come in a long way by its own way of culture, experience, and their way of life. So you cannot control over the society. And nature is above all of us. You can't control the nature. But then what else you can control, what else you can personify, what else you can sublimate is only the self. So how the self development, how the personality development, how individually can grow in the spiritual path. So that is the goal of the spirituality. And that is how the spirituality, the word come from the spirit. Spirit from the development of the spirit, and to realize its origin, that is how the word spirituality has come. So the Vedatrium as a whole, looking at in these three angles, self, nature, and the society, Vedatrium itself advocates 14 steps to attain the world peace. That is the ultimatum. That is the goal of our Maharishi towards the world peace we all striving to. But then to attain that, he is talking about world without war, economic justice, all sort of points. And final point relevant to our today discussion, one world religion accept to all. So the today's subject, moreover, we are addressing with respect to it is a world religion which should be acceptable to all. So the yoga goal, what is the yoga means? The yoga, the word rooted from the Sanskrit word yuj. Yuj means joining. Yuj means it is harmony in joining. That is how the word derived from the word yuj. So the yoga means harmony. So the harmony is naturally it is benedicted, and it is everybody has come to this world to lead a harmonious life. And how we can obtain a harmonious life, maybe we can put it in steps. The art of enriching our physical and mental health. That means harmony within self. An individual harmony, how you can enrich is by having a physical health and there is a mental health. Both are interconnected, both are interrelated. So if there is a illness in the physical body, obviously your mental health getting affected. And if your mental health by way of emotion, your physical body also getting affected. Either way, both are independent parameters, both are interconnected parameters. interdependent parameters. We simply say physical body is the visible part of the mind. Mind is the invisible part of your body. So the within the self, if the harmony, if the within the individual personality, if harmony prevails, then it can spread to the family, and then the harmony can spread to the society, and then harmony between individual wisdom and nature, and ultimate yoga goal, we lead a contentment in our life, thereby nullification of our miseries. So the peace and harmony, if you look at karma yoga, I just go one slide before. The karma means action or a deed, whatever the activity we do. Yoga means while indulging into any action. Action means need not be a physical movement or any sort of arms and limbs movement. It is anything related to our thought, our word, and deed, which in case of indulging any of its action, any of these three activities, then if it yields a harmonious result by remembering our law of nature without conflict, itself called yoga. Yoga means when we do any activity, when we perform any activity, doing the activity without forgetting the law of nature, without conflict, yielding harmony, called yoga. So the total, the phrase of karma yoga is talking about while performing any particular action, while performing any particular activity, we are in a total awareness by knowing, by analyzing, and by the experience of yielding a harmonious result by understanding the law of nature. So that is how the karma yoga means while performing any particular activity without forgetting the law of nature, without conflict, yielding harmony, called karma yoga. So the benefits, obviously, it yields the yoga system, physical health, rejuvenation of life energies, mental health, good relationship among the society, maybe family is part of the society, and purification of our genetic center, and ultimately the self-realization. So then this all helps an individual to develop his personality. We can't get into individual explanation. Obviously, you can think over, can also individually understand what really it calls for: receptivity, perspicacity, creativity, adaptability, and we call it as ATS, adjustment, tolerance, sacrifice, and of course the magnanimity, ultimately how simple we are, how simplicity the life is. That is how the development of consciousness, the personality development, the yoga helps every individual to lead. So the yoga as a karma yoga, when we get into a subject, the karma yoga, very famous one in Bhagavad Gita, it was discussed in a war zone. Please understand, it is not the subject which was discussed in ashram. It was not the subject discussed in a forest or in a very peaceful, harmonious area. So it has been discussed, and the whole discourse and the discussion between the Guru and Shishya, Krishna and the Arjuna, happens in the war zone. So in the Bhagavad Gita, one of the slogam says, what is yoga? Yoga, karmasu kausalam. Whatever I do, whatever the activity I perform, if I can perform my allocated duty in an excellent manner, that itself called yoga. So that is, Kausala means I do it with devotion without any expectations in return, any attachment to the activity. That is how the Kausalam. We will go this particular explanation in the coming slides. So the entire the phrase yoga karmasu kausalam means while performing any allocated duty, I do it without any attachment, with a total devotion, in an excellent execution of the entire the obligation. That is how the karma yoga. So Swami also defines in his karma yoga in his own terminology. It signifies to perform your duty with the devotion for harmonious results, without forgetting the law of nature, without conflict, which should always yielding a harmonious result. So that is how our Maharishi defines Karma Yoga, doing, performing our duty with the total devotion, with wholeheartedly. When I am doing the activity without any attachment to the action or what I'm supposed to get, what it's supposed to yield. I never get attached to that. I just perform my duty without any expectation. Then the result, obviously, when I wholeheartedly perform, obviously it is going to yield a harmonious result when I can align my activity along with the law of nature. So the karma theory, if you look at, it is basically the cause and effect system. So when we perform any action, even the scientific world, they also talk about the cause and effect system. The Newton, I believe, second law talks about for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. The same way, the karma theory, our own scripture says, for every effect, that everything I enjoy, everything I may suffer, there is a root cause, there is a karma attached to every sort of sufferings or enjoyment or the results or the life which I have been possessed with. So then, with this background, our Maharishi also talks about karma theory for every action. Action means, as we earlier have seen in the screen, it may be our thoughts, it may be words, it may be our deed. All individual component itself in an individual action. So every action in terms of thought, word, and deed, it always resulting in pain, pleasure, peace, and ecstasy. Supposing we eat something, and while eating any of the sweet, I feel more pleasure, I feel more happy. But then, is it attached to the specific sweet, the pleasure? In that is the case, you keep on eating 2, 3, 4, then obviously when you increase the quantity, you feel little vomit sensation, you feel little uncomfortable. So that what it does mean? So the pleasure is not attached to the specific sweet. The pleasure is the energy within my body is getting aggravated, converted when it goes beyond the limit of the tolerable level of my sensual senses and as well as its cell structure. Obviously the biomagnetism level getting decreased. The same pleasure when I was enjoying initially while taking the sweet turn into pain. So the pleasure and pain are not two different phenomena. If I indulge into any of my action, any of my activity with the limit and method, with the limit and method approach, with a pure awareness, with a pure consciousness, and then it will lead to pleasure. If it is crossing the limit and method, beyond the sensual limitation, beyond the sensory structure, then obviously my biomagnetism level, cell structure, all the biomagnetic level getting deprived, getting reduced. So the same pleasure turn into pain. But then if you can lead a life maintaining the pleasure and use your senses with a with more awareness for a longer period, then the same mind, the same peripheral consciousness automatically will get into a state of peace. So, whenever the mind stays for a longer period in peace, then it essentially gets its own strength, and also it has got its own strength to search its own origin. Once it searches its origin and realizes its origin and merges with its origin, the same peripheral consciousness turns into ecstasy. So Swami says, any of my action, it yields through peripheral consciousness while enjoying, resulting pain, pleasure, peace, and ecstasy. So, if there is a limit and method, I enjoy pleasure, and if the pleasure stays for a longer period while indulging using my senses, then it stays permanent peace in my living being. And then if the peace prolongs for a and it I can maintain that, then automatically when the mind merges with its origin, turns into ecstasy. If you look at any of these four state of peripheral consciousness, pain, pleasure, peace, and ecstasy. So obviously the yoga system, we talk about maintaining the harmonious system. Maintaining the harmonious system, we call it as peace and harmony. Swami has advocated 5 important areas we need to maintain the harmony. That is between body and soul, between soul and the mind, between individual and the society, between wisdom and the law of nature, between objective of life and the survival on the earth. So the first point, the body and soul, it is basically the body made up of 5 elements, and the soul, the vital energy, maintains the entire our physical bioroutine. So to maintain the harmonious relationship, Swami has structured a very beautiful, simplified physical exercise to keep complete harmony between body and soul by maintaining 3 important circulation: heat circulation, air circulation, blood circulation. Thereby, if you maintain a harmonious and actually in its standard pattern of circulation of blood, air, and heat, then the harmony between body and soul is well maintained. Harmony between soul and the mind, we Swami has structured and has given simplified Kundalini yoga, whereby our mental frequency are getting tuned and we focus on our life force. Automatically, the mental frequency come down to alpha, and then if you keep practicing, then you can still further tune to your mental frequency to theta as well delta. So the mental frequency, so longer I operate it, I could maintain it at a subtle level, then the harmony between soul and mind is well maintained. If it goes, if it goes beyond the alpha level, aggressive level, all sort of emotions, all sort of a conflict, all sort of problems in the society, it is basically in the emotional aggressive mind. So it is essential for peace and harmony. We need to maintain harmony between soul and the mind. And the third component, between individual and society. So in an individual today, the whole globe, the entire world has become a global village. We are well connected, and the whole participants, though in a very distant, and the speaker is somewhere, and we are all connected through aliyar. So this is how the society is well networked and everybody is well connected. So nobody is independent, nobody is dependent, all are interconnected. So it is like this whole society now has become a family today. So essentially for everybody life, you want to lead a peaceful and harmony life, definitely we need to maintain within the family, within the our relatives, and within the other people in the society, we need to maintain the harmony between individual and the law of nature. And of course, the objective of life should be the survival, always should be the life objective aligned, so that it is always towards development of the consciousness, towards the perfection, and that's how the objective of life is met. And the harmony between wisdom and law of nature. So what is law of nature? Law of nature is, as we have seen, for every action, for every action, there is a result always coming, and it is not a separate one. Swami says the action itself a part of the result even clinging to the action. So the action and result both are even at some point not a different entity. The very result is clinging to the action. So the any activity, if I have to perform, I need to be completely understand the background of it, and I have to be very choosy and selective. Swami gives 5 parameters which I have not given in the slide, but then you can also just think about in those points internally. Swami talks for 5 fundamental parameters: motive and efficiency. You must have the definite efficiency to perform, and you should select and you should equip yourself the right motive, and you need to perform at the right place, at a right point of time, at the right person. So these 5 parameters: motive, efficiency, time, place, and object of contact. These 5 parameters I choose. How about result? For example, I clap my hand. So clapping of my hand is my action. But did I produce the sound? Did the sound came because of my willingness? No, not at all. It came on its own, spontaneous. So that means the action, the activity which I prefer to choose the parameters, it may be by selecting motive, efficiency, time, place, and object of contact, maybe on my side. But then if you look at the result, it is beyond my control. So if I continuously clap the same sound, it will turn into heat, the same sound turn into all sort of action. That means for every action, the activities are done by me where the result is beyond my control. Clapping on my hand, my duty over. Whereas the result yielded on its own. When I clap the hand, the atomic structure, the atoms within the hand getting friction in between, and the magnetic force getting accumulated, and the same magnetic force, when it is getting intensified, it gets converted into sound. The same way, when it is more intensified, it is getting converted into the same pressure, sound, light, taste, and smell. So the entire the physical transformation is not in my control. The activity is mine, whereas the result is out of my control. So if I can enjoy my activity with a pure awareness, knowing my past experience, understanding the current circumstances, and I have past experience in certain activity, and I know that this is going to yield definitely success or pleasant result, or it's going to be pain. So now understanding these three, past experience, present circumstances, and the future result, that is called Trikala Jnanam. Knowing the three dimensions, the any of the past, present, and future aspects, and a yogi able to assimilate and perform his duty. So while performing his duty, the action is under our control, whereas the result based on my action. If I do within the limit and method, my results are good, results are pleasant. If I indulged into my activity beyond the limit and method, beyond crossed over sort of a limit, then the same activity turned into pain. That means if I do any of my activity with good intention in limit and method, using all these three dimensions of past, present, and future, obviously the result comes as a boon, as a acceptance, as appreciation of my activity. If I have performed rather than the other way, out of control, beyond the limit and method, beyond against the law of nature, out of the sync with the synchronicity, then the same action, same activity as a punishment, as a warning, it is coming as a yield as a evil result, as a bad result, painful result to me. That is, if I can perform my activity with a clear control on self, understanding the past experience, present circumstance, future result, indulging into that with a limit and method, with a pure awareness, then it yields the result with a pleasant and as well as peaceful to not only to me, to others also. So that is why you perform the activity. Let the decide be decided by the Almighty. That is how the Krishna says, Yoga Karmasu Kausalam. You perform the duty with a total dedication, the total willingness, because you don't have anything to choose the result. You don't have any authority to choose the result. You are here to perform the result, whereas I decide the result. I declare the result. And I have been there in the universe by sound, light, taste, and smell. In universe, everywhere I am pervaded. And you can see these phrases in Bhagavad Gita. I am in everywhere. I am spread in every, right from the atom to the globe to entire inanimate to animate. I can see my being, it is being pervaded throughout the universe. I am not separate from the universe, and you cannot separate me from the universe. So this is what ultimately the Karma Yoga gives you wisdom. Perform the activity within the limit, knowing the, analyzing the past, present, and getting a realization of future, knowing the law of nature. If you do by aligning into the nature, by aligning into the mightier force, by aligning the natural force, you can call it as God, you can call it as unified force, you can call it as nature, whatsoever the terminology, the word you call it as, it is how that is called in Tamil, Valipadudal. In English, we call it as worship of God. Worship of God means in every activity, it could be of my thought, word, or deeds, I see in the result. While yielding the result, either pain or pleasure, peace or ecstasy as a four dimension of through my peripheral consciousness is physical presence of God, worship of God. And Any religion, if you look at, they only teach these two things. One is worship of God, another one is worship of society. Being with the total awareness, maintaining the harmony within self and align with the nature, you perform the activity to govern the self called worship of God. The same responsibility, the same awareness, as you are well connected with the society, follow the same virtues while indulging, while interacting, while moving with the society. You maintain the same awareness in your duty when you perform. That is through morality, duty, charity. You call it as worship of society. So these two components, these are all the core components of any religion across the world. You look at it, one is worship of God, and of course, worship of society. These are all again, which is nothing but our Karma Yoga also advocates by giving you the background, by giving you realization what for it is. Now you can understand very well and take it forward all your activity with the same sort of light in your path when you carry on in your activities, and then you yourself become a karma yogi. And when a karma yogi, when he follows his life, then you feels the total gratefulness to the nature, to the almighty, to the overall unified force for such a phenomenon, how the unified force works through in its action and result, in its in its every sort of action and result, how it works beautifully. We call it as kurdal aram, that is the law of justice. That is how the gratefulness we appreciate the nature, we appreciate the law of nature, the totality, the universal consciousness, how it beautifully works in the universe, how it works in the universe, on the earth, in the living being, in our human being. We understood the whole, the kind of the pervasiveness, the kind of penetration of the unified force. Then we feel obviously the gratefulness of the nature. And once you, as I was talking about in the beginning, once you realize the totality, obviously you land up in your duty consciousness. So when we, the purpose, the very life of purpose is to develop the consciousness by performing our duty without any sort of compromise. And while performing any activity, our mind is always on a vigil, always on a constant awareness while performing any activity. This becomes, it is not a separate phenomenon, it is not a separate thing to do, it is one among your day-to-day life. Yogi never feels he lives as a karma yogi, he simply lives in karma yoga. He is not a karma yoga separate from his life, his life itself become karma yoga, karma yogi. So the virtuous, we call it as worship of society. Morality, Swami gives any of our deed while using thought, word, or action should not inflict pain to self or others at present or in future to the physical or mental body. And also morality, duty, charity. Then comes duty. We are indebted to the society, which fed everything, including food, clothes, shelter from our childhood. And of course, whatever we have taken, it all taken without any investment, without any sort of repayment. Now, once we have grown, once we have come up to maturity, we have to repay whatever the due being given to us as a free of goods should pay as a duty back to the society. And the charity, we also bound to act selflessly, and we need to support the people in the society who are marginal and who really not able to earn because of the opportunity is not there, because of their limitations, because of their education, because of the social status. We should live up, we should come up and then we should support them to support their lives, also called charity. These three phenomena, morality, duty, charity, it automatically, spontaneously for a yogi, for a karma yogi, it evolves. So the results, as I was talking about, not a separate one from the action, it is clinging to the action. Like once you consume some food, and we don't know what is happening once we consume the food, what happened, but scientifically the medical science says it is converted into 7 minerals. It converted into juice, and then it is converted into blood, and it converted into flesh, flesh into fat, fat into bone, bone into bone marrow, bone marrow into sexual vital fluid as its bioroutine, whether we do it or not. Swami was addressing in the US, I think some Colorado University, some student was asking, God is not there, Almighty is not there, it is all humbug. Swami says, it's correct. That is not there. It is only the realization we need to do. What you had yesterday, Swami, he said, I had some dosa yesterday. Swami said, then what happened to it? He was saying it has got digested, and of course it has come out. Swami said, as a normal student, you can talk like, general terms, but I am a Siddha and Yoga as well as Ayurveda practitioner. I know this food automatically, once you consume, getting into 7 minerals. Did you do that? No. Your parents doing it? No. Your friends are doing? No. Then how it happens? Then that student says, it is by nature. You call it as nature. Somebody is call it as God. Somebody is call it as Almighty. Somebody is calling it as universal conscious. Words are different, but the phenomenon, the action, the kind of the entire the functions, one and all indicate the same function. So that is the understanding. We need to have the entire universe and the universe in the earth, living beings. It is all connected through a single united force called unified force. So knowing this, now we can understand every action. This has become according to our action, based on our motive, efficiency, time and place, object of contact, with the result into pain, pleasure, peace and ecstasy. And I can control through my pure awareness and manage my activities so that it yields always a pleasant result, a harmonious result, and the whole society may enjoy the same state of mind. And that is the time you can realize this is not one religion, that is the commonology. It is a common thesis for the entire humanity as a common religion, that is Swami termed as world holistic religion. So there is no contradiction. Everybody has to perform, everybody has to go through the same theology. And to do that, we have to, Swami has already structured the meditation, introspection, sublimation, getting away from our bad imprints and tune your senses through do the good habits and increase your good imprints called sublimation, thereby the perfection of consciousness. So once you understand not only the current life that has been accumulated, all our activities, not only bringing the result, also imprints in our seed, imprints in our biomagnetism, imprints in 5 important places. And also it goes to 7 generations as a continuous through our son, through our the grandson. Likewise, the entire birth, it keeps continuing our experience. So that means whatever the life I am benedicted, I am given this life is based on the action of me in this life called prarabdha, and based on my forefathers, their karmas, their activities called sanjita, and this has become my personality. So if my life, whatever I am enjoying, it may be pleasant or suffering, it is not of anybody outside, it is only based on my imprint. Accept the presence, Buddha says, accept the presence is the first step towards the realization. So then nature, suppose it has to balance out the way it has got imprinted, it has to come out. How it comes out, either through suffering or enjoyment through any of the third man, who is not our enemy, who simply has come to us to remove, to annihilate my imprints. So to avoid the miseries, we need to sublimate our evil characters into pious through all these techniques called meditation and introspection and karma yoga, the way life to do purification, help others, that will help us to understand the purpose of the life. Karma yoga, once you understand the nature, you understand the primordial state, other word called Brahman, other state called static, which unites the entire universe through unified force. Of course, the truth, which is nothing a different words, all are one and all through the same realization that you will learn through a proper meditation techniques. Once we understand, and we are anyhow been come to this world, we are in this world, and a day there for our life, everyone carrying a return ticket. So now we live this world with a pure sort of a realization, and we are able to lead our life peacefully and help others peacefully. Then you automatically, your mind will be always grateful to the nature, and also grateful the other living being around. And particularly, so far we have suppressed women and the labors, you turn into a sort of motivator. You will always help them to enrich their life, help them to come up as with the courtesy, treat them with the courtesy for their contribution to the society. So there are 5 duties in Karma Yoga: to the self and family, and family again reflects into relation, and to the country and to the world. So the time very limited, so I am just giving you, sharing you the key points. The duty conscious, basically the word duty, even in Tamil we say kadan. Kadan turn into kadamai. The same way the word duty turned into duty. Whatever the society has given us from the childhood, we need to pay back. It's a service back to the society, paying our dues. So whatever we indulged in our life, it all given by society. Even today, Swami says, you take handful food on your hand and just think, somewhere somebody in the agriculture, in the field, they have cultivated and they have grown, they have made their labor worked, and they again brought it to the factory, then they have segregated, and that has been transported, so many labors, and come to the shop, come to our house, and our wives again cooking it. How many labor involved just as reached as a handful food in my hand? So many labor involved. So how do I do that? By repaying, my service as a service, by the way of service to the society. That is how the duty conscious, the great scientist talks about 100 times every day. I remind myself that my inner and outer life depend the labors of other men, living and dead, and that I must exert in the same measure to the society as I have received, still I am received. So then, while performing any duty without any expectation, selfless service, we call it as niskamya karma. When you do it with certain desire for selfish reason, that is called kamyam. Then when you do it without expectation, you call it as niskamyam. In Tamil says, Swami, unakkum nalladai, urukkum nalladai, ninaipadum, seivadum, nityakkadan. And last few slides, I will just conclude faster. So knowing all the points, and Valluvar says, when you can realize to the core, and of course, our mind is purified, and we are all towards the realization of self as well as the ultimate consciousness, the perfection of consciousness. So there are 10 steps of Karma Yoga, Swami advocates.
respecting parent, guru, head of government, and law of nature. Number two, accepting, realizing Almighty is all pervasive, not only outside, within me as my conscious. And I should not inflict, as I know that the same consciousness working in all other living beings, I should not inflict pain through my thought, word, and deeds. And I, while indulging five activity, food, work, sleep, sensual enjoyment, and thought, I should maintain the limit and method and lead a virtuous life by way of duty, morality, charity. And I have five important duty to do: self, family, relative, country, to the world. And I need to render service to the society by spreading spiritual knowledge and working towards world peace. And I always should appreciate the greatness of women. And from my income, I should always take away 1% and use it for the welfare of upliftment of the society and for the purification of genetic center. Continuously, I have to practice meditation and introspection. With these words, I conclude my discourse on Karma Yoga. One and all, I thank you again, and I really cherished and thank you for the opportunity for sharing this wonderful evening, my experience. வாழ்க வளமுடன்.